Hi, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today for this BTS series event. We're excited to be talking to you on this Friday afternoon. All right, we're going to get things started here. So my name is Kylie Woods, and I'm the founder and executive director of Geek. We do this BTS series, which stands for Behind the Scenes. It is not the Korean boy band group, but we are taking you backstage with emerging technology-driven companies because this is a vibrant ecosystem with lots of amazing opportunities, and we want to showcase the many ways you can grow your career in technology. This series dives into the people, culture, and leadership of technology companies, as well as the opportunities to join the team. Geek exists because there's not enough women in technology, and the women we do have are leaving. We're here to change that. We believe that through connection building, peer elevation, and community support, we can shift that narrative. We're determined to help women find their future and forge new paths in technology because this will have a bold and beneficial impact on the future and the tech that defines it. Geek stands for diversity, inclusion, equity, and belonging. And we support reconciliation and believe we all have a role to play in building harmonious relationships between Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal people. A land acknowledgement is a traditional custom of the Indigenous people when welcoming outsiders onto their land and into their homes. To build respectful relationships, acknowledging the land is an important part of reconciliation. It honors the authentic history of Canada, its original people, and tells the creation story of our country that has historically been missing. In gratitude, I acknowledge that even though we're digital today, this event is being hosted on the traditional territories of the Blackfoot Confederacy, Siksika, Kainai, Piikani, the Tsuut'ina, the Stoney Nakoda Nations, and the Métis Nation Region 3. We acknowledge all nations, Indigenous and non, who live, work, and play on this land and who honor and celebrate this territory. Thank you for joining us at this digital event hosted on the beautiful lands of Treaty 7 territory. Today, we're going behind the scenes with Myntex, a company in the cybersecurity space. Myntex specializes in encrypted communication, which is part of data security and a growing concern for individuals and companies alike. This is a technology area that's growing quickly and has no intention of slowing down. Myntex is known for leveraging the latest technologies and encryption protocols to deliver innovative solutions for clients who demand privacy all around the world. And in addition to managing and operating its own data center here in Calgary, Myntex has a unique software called Chatmail, which ensures end-to-end encrypted communication. Myntex is on a mission to change the way people think about encrypted communications. With that, I'd like to introduce Chantal Duplanty and Jeff Green. Together, they co-founded Myntex, which started in their living room. Chantal leads brand, customer service, sales, and communication strategy for Myntex. She's built relationships with product distributors and resellers all around the world. And Jeff is an advocate for empowering data privacy and security through technology. He's passionate about finding unique solutions that support large-scale enterprises and individuals in their need to protect customer information. I'm going to pull them on stage here, and we're going to have a great discussion today. Hey, Chantal. Hey, Jeff.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Thanks for joining us here today. We're excited to learn more about Myntex, your team, and what some careers in cybersecurity can look like. So, Jeff, I'm going to start it off with you. Can you describe the big problem that Myntex is solving?
The biggest problem we're trying to solve is education. Education is the biggest problem. We're always trying to advocate to users, businesses, different styles of organizations about privacy and security solutions. A lot of people don't even realize, as an example, like when you send text messages, they can be stored for 10 years indefinitely, for as little as $15. If you have a little bit of insight into technology, you can actually start to play around. It's kind of nefarious, but you could intercept text messages. One of the nice things we're seeing as a trend in the industry is iMessage, as an example. Android has also come out with some really cool messaging solutions that are end-to-end encryption. But even when people hear the whole end-to-end encryption, they don't quite understand. They think end-to-end encryption, oh, this is great, right? Our messages are secure, but that's only end-to-end, right? You still have to think about the whole solution. And when we talk about the whole solution is when your message leaves your device, it's being stored on the device that it's sent from, and now it's encrypted, which is good, so nobody can just kind of intercept messages, right? So you have an added layer of protection. But when it gets to the other end, what's happening to that message? Is there spyware on the device? So we kind of look at the whole solution, and we educate our clients to understand these intricacies in security.
Very cool, Jeff. Thank you for that kind of big picture view of what Myntex does. Chantal, can you help us understand, like, what exactly do you do in that space? Tell us a little bit about like the products and things that you're working on.
Yeah, so Jeff explained it well, but we develop security and privacy solutions for privacy conscious clients. So we do have individual clients, corporate clients, and government clients around the world. Our current product right now is called Chatmail, and it's an entire solution. So you can't actually go on the internet or Facebook or any third-party kind of applications, because that's where the risks are. So we fully lock it down, and you're only able to communicate with either Chatmail to Chatmail using ECC encryption, or we allow cross communication using PGP encryption if another company implements it the same way we did.
Awesome. Thank you. And folks, as you're tuning in and listening to this event, if you've got questions, please feel free to put them in the chat of whatever platform you're tuning in with. We'll get to the Q&A at the end, and we'll also do our best to integrate them throughout the rest of the discussion. So we look forward to an engaged group today. So thank you, Chantal. You know, Jeff, you kind of mentioned spyware. We think a lot about encrypted communications, and I think that there is this misconception that, you know, it's only conspiracy theorists or black market dealings that are, you know, looking to use encrypted communication. So can you help us kind of address that elephant in the room and understand, you know, what types of organizations are starting to consider this kind of technology? And the second part of the question, and I'll direct this part to Chantal, but how do you ensure that your tech ends up in the right hands? So Jeff, let's maybe start with that first part of the question with you.
Yeah, definitely. So some of the big things is, I think everybody can benefit from security. That would be the biggest statement. We're starting to see, like Canada, I think is slower to take on to all these new technologies compared to Europe. They've definitely embraced them many, many years ago. The one thing we are starting to see, we've all seen it in the news, is everybody was using WhatsApp as an example. And then all these headlines of how they're using your data. It's a free product, right? They're going to make money somehow, so they're going to sell your data that they're collecting. And so it was really interesting to see that once people kind of understood these privacy policies and these terms and conditions of what they're doing with your data, we saw a huge mass exodus over to Signal, because Signal was end-to-end encrypted. You know, they were more trusting platform, you could say. And the biggest thing is people don't really put two and two together. So as an example, when you write a letter and you put it in a mail, right? So you're going to seal it in the envelope, you're going to send it to somewhere else in the country. And you know that when you put it in that envelope and it's sealed, it's going to get to the intended recipient. And so people don't think anything of that, right? They know they put it in, it's good. Nobody's going to look at this letter. And so it's a good analogy to put that into encryption as well. As if you feel that way with standard mail through Canada Post, why wouldn't you feel the same way with your text messages or with any kind of digital communication?
Okay, that's a really good reminder, Jeff, about, you know, the personal implications of data and privacy. And I'm like, oh, I'm still using WhatsApp, so maybe I need to be reconsidering that. Chantal, switching gears a little bit, how do you, you know, vet the types of customers that Myntex is working with to ensure that, you know, they align with your values and the kind of company you want to be?
Yeah, so we don't deal directly with clients ourselves. We kind of operate more of a wholesaler. So my job is to vet our certified executive partners, which you can think of as a channel partner. So we have resellers around the world. The vetting process would be ensuring, that they've got a store or an office there. We can confirm their corporation, and then just understanding the clients that they target. So are you primarily targeting individuals or corporations or governments? We kind of go through the list of that. And then, what I was trying to say is we don't overly deal with like the end user, but we ensure that we vet our top level distributors to make sure that those kind of users that you were talking about don't get on our platform.
Okay, that's really good to hear. I'm thinking about cybersecurity, which it feels like a very emerging space. I think a lot of people are interested in how to build careers here. It does have a bit of a reputation for being an old boys club. And Chantel, when Myntex started, you were 18. Which is crazy to think that you guys started a company at that age and it's grown to what it is today. It's amazing. But you were leading international sales with customers around the world. And, can you tell us a little bit about that experience? I know that there's a story involving Orion, so maybe you can share that with the audience.
A little embarrassing. It wasn't easy at the beginning. I'm young. I looked young. I sounded young. I was, receiving inquiries for our product, and I'd be answering their questions and signing my name with Chantel, and I was never getting responses back, or very little. And at the time, Jeff's email was actually listed on the website. So I would answer the inquiries, and then they'd go to the website and they'd be like, oh, here's Jeff's email. And then they'd re-ask the questions to Jeff. And I'd be like, but I answered those questions for you in the exact same way that Jeff would. It was getting really frustrating to the point where we were in meetings. This story is about, we were in Amsterdam at a wonderful restaurant, Moroccan restaurant. There was 4 men with me, and I am 19 or something at the time, and I get asked a question, and it was a question for me, directed. It should be a question for me, and the 3 guys look at me, and I'm answering the question. The guys are nodding their head. I'm answering it well. I'm feeling really good about it. And then the client kind of puts his shoulder towards me and then re-asks the men the question. And I was like, this is terrible feeling, an absolutely terrible feeling. So I kind of thought, well, if I was a man, then maybe I would be able to make these sales. So I created Ryan. And I started tagging signing my support and sales emails with Ryan's name. And all of a sudden I started making sales. The tricky part was not taking a phone call. So I'd be like, oh, sorry, Ryan's off today. Jeff will have to answer your phone call. But it was really frustrating. And eventually I had to fire Ryan because one of my resellers, I got used to signing off as Ryan. And he messaged in for a support question. I signed off as Ryan. He knew that Jeff and I were the only ones that ran the company at the time. And he's like, who's Ryan? And I thought, I got 2 options. I can either lie or I can tell the truth. But if I lie and, he comes to Canada to visit, and he'll be like, oh, where's Ryan? Oh, I had to fire him. His customer service was terrible. But customer service is me. So myself. I had to tell him the truth. And he was like, oh, you shouldn't have to do that. I'm really sorry that the industry makes you feel that way. But I think that you're really great at customer service. And it kind of helped, just like hearing him say that. You don't get a lot of good feedback from clients. So it was nice to hear. And I did learn from the experience for sure. I learned a lot more tech from it. I kind of went to Jeff a lot. He's very good at tech. And every time I would write out like my email started getting really long to try and prove that I knew what I was talking about. And I would get Jeff to just double check, all the tech in here is correct. I'm not making any mistakes. And that actually helped me learn to the point where I was helping Jeff in the data center, and it actually helped kind of build my confidence that way. So it was a bit of a long road to it with a weird persona, but eventually got there.
Chantal, thank you so much for sharing that story. I could feel like my heart in my throat a little bit, like hearing that was your experience. And I think that, for many women, feeling like they have to be something that they're not in order to fit in or to be successful or thrive in technology is a shared experience. And we really appreciate your vulnerability in sharing with us, because that is a reality of what happens, unfortunately. So just thank you. I know for me, when I started Geek, I was 22, and I had so many feelings of imposter syndrome and what it meant to be a leader. And it's taken me 10 years only to kind of come around and find my own confidence in that. So I feel like I've walked a similar path as you. Thank you. Jeff, what is it like to be at a table like that? And how do you support Chantal to be able to kind of come out of those experiences better for it?
So I remember that meeting. That was probably one of the worst ones that we've been in, and it was really nice. There was one client in that meeting, and the rest were kind of our support throughout the meeting. And it was really good to see that it was only one of the men out of everybody that was there, and that could have been just the culture that he came from, but it was nice to see that they were asking Chantal these questions, and then it was kind of they brushed her off, and so then we would point it back at Chantal, and we just kept doing that to the point where he had to give up on the question. You got the answer, you got it from Chantal, now just give up. And so that one, it was a very awkward meeting for everybody. But yeah, you just have to support. You have to support everybody, right? And so that was the biggest thing, is just keep pushing it back and back, so he understands, right? We're not going to steamroll anybody. So it was, but it's an interesting world we live in. That's for sure. It's definitely not fair.
Well, and I think, organizations like Geek exist to start to change that, and having these, conversations and addressing them up front is a way to start making that change. But Jeff, what you're talking about, that practice of spotlighting. So, being able to recognize Chantal in that moment for her expertise and direct the questions to her is a really great practice that allies can use in meetings, whether it's virtual or in person, to recognize their women colleagues. So thank you for that reminder of spotlighting. That's a great takeaway for the audience today. Chantal, coming from using this persona Ryan and then being able to fire him, and now you've kind of stepped into your role. You've always been in your role, but do you have any advice for other women who might be feeling like they need to be something else that they're not right now?
It's hard, because I guess Ryan kind of helped me get to where I am, because he pushed me a little bit. I think just having like the knowledge backing behind you, just learn everything that you possibly can, and don't allow someone to steamroll you. Just keep pushing. Yeah, I mean, my journey was a little different than other people's, but I would definitely say just kind of knowledge is the best. Just keep answering the questions, keep pushing, and just don't take it.
Cool. Thank you, Chantal. What I'm hearing is that confidence can come from knowledge, and that's a really great place to start. And it sounds like that's where a lot of that foundation has come for you as well. Okay, I'm going to switch gears here a little bit and kind of come back to the technology side. We talk about cybersecurity, and I don't know much about it, but it feels like this very kind of like big thing that's hard to wrap my head around. I'm interested to know, maybe this question, I'll start with Jeff, but what kinds of tech talent are you looking to hire for at Myntex, and what kinds of skills are needed from a technical side to be in cybersecurity?
So I wouldn't say it's necessarily you have to be cybersecurity focused. That would definitely help. I mean, the biggest thing we look for is just the drive for knowledge. you can go and take some courses and learn to code, but if you don't have the passion, you're going to fall short. So yeah, that would be the biggest thing that we look for, is just the passion and the drive to understand and to learn. A lot of the stuff that we work on, they don't necessarily teach in school directly. And so a lot of it will be, working and not setting tight deadlines. That's another big thing too, right? Giving people the opportunity to learn and to expand and to be able to further their tool set. As a prime example, we're in Calgary. Android developers, they're short and few and far between. A lot of people up here, they will work more on Apple-based products, or right out of school, they'll get scalped into Silicon Valley or elsewhere within Canada. And so with that, which is really nice, the University of Calgary actually teaches Java. Java is a great framework for learning. And of course, Android was originally built with Java and is now moving over to Kotlin. And so a good thing with that is, as long as you can understand Java, you're just learning a framework. And then that just takes time to understand and familiarize yourself with the system. So yeah, really, it's just the passion for learning and wanting to further yourself in your career.
Okay, very cool. Thank you, Jeff. It sounds like there's a lot of opportunity to get into the space. Chantel, from a Myntex perspective, what kinds of qualities and traits do you look for in people to join your team?
Yeah, my favorite thing is resumes when they come in, honestly. A unique resume with, not like a pop of color, but something different. All resumes look the exact same with the same format, and it gets a little boring, sorry. But a resume that actually stands out. I actually remember when I was applying for a hotel job, I ended up printing my resume off, and it was like really thick paper, and I got the job because he's like, did my staff print your resume on this paper, or is this your paper? And he was kind of going like this, like, no, I dropped it off like it. So I think a resume that stands out is really great. I know that we don't get a lot of paper resumes anymore. Things are pretty digital, but when they come through, something a little more unique that stands out. Like Jeff said, passion when you're in the interviewing process. We kind of have more of a conversation versus, Q&A constantly. So seeing their passion when we're in that conversation is great. We want people that enjoy what they're doing here and are a little fun, maybe a little outside the box, creative personalities. We like to give people the option. We give a task and then we let them go, create and come back to us and let us know. So, yeah.
So I like that idea of, make sure your resume stands out. You guys aren't the kind of company that is going to run all the resumes through like an automatic thing looking for keywords. So it's a very human kind of first approach at Myntex. What about folks who come in? So maybe they start as a junior Android developer. Like, where could they go in terms of growth at Myntex, or what kinds of projects might they be working on?
So the real nice thing about our tech stack is we have, currently we have tons and tons of different projects and tons of different languages. Right now, we're trying to kind of align everything to be more language agnostic. So we're trying to push everything into more JavaScript and then frameworks. So you could come in and then you do Node for a back end, you could do Vue for a front end. But currently right now, it's really nice, especially for the developers, they get a touch and they also get to see existing code and be able to learn from that. And some of the places you could go with this is a good example of our old partner. Our old partner worked really hard. He built a lot of the existing tech stack that's actually here. And then he landed a job down in Silicon Valley. We also had one of our previous graphic designers, contractor. She was amazing, and she ended up being scalped up by Apple. So she's working in Silicon Valley as well. So I really think it's just the drive, right? As long as you have the drive and you want to expand, and I mean, not Silicon Valley is not for everybody, right? They demand perfection. A lot of people don't want that, right? They train you to be the most perfect elite at what you actually do. But there's always room for expansion as long as you're ready to kind of, just push the boundaries, and also not be afraid to try new things is kind of a big one. Like in our hiring process, a good example is you could have two different levels, right? You could have a junior and a senior, and you give them the same test. And the nice thing is too, is especially being an all-inclusive company, the code speaks for itself, right? So you don't really I guess we've kind of changed it up a little bit, and we do the test after the fact because we've kind of changed the interview process. But as an example, right, you'd look at these two tests and the code will speak for itself, which is really nice. And so that's why in the development industry, it's really cool to, it's especially good for women in tech because, they can have a leg up amongst the competition because it's their code that should be speaking for themselves.
Yeah. I've talked to some women developers, and the way they describe writing code is like, they make it sound like art or poetry, and it gets me really excited. So that's really cool, Jeff. Chantel, can you help us understand a little bit about what is the culture like at Myntex, and what is your team like right now?
Yeah, so our culture, it's fun. We've got a slide, as you know, Larissa uses it every single day. Our culture, yeah, we've tried to create a pretty open and fun space. Jeff and I, we don't have cubicles or offices or anything like that. We're a very open concept. We want to be able to make our employees feel like they can approach us at any time, which is great. And it really helps with collaboration. You kind of stand up, you look over, is Andrew really busy right now? And then you kind of just walk over and start bouncing off ideas. Or the same with the ladies, Diane and Larissa, and even Chris, our graphic designer. Sometimes you just come up with an idea and you don't want to wait. You don't want to wait for the Tuesday meeting, so you just bring it up. So I really like that. Our team seems to really like that as well. Collaboration is pretty important, and we've been able to create some really cool stuff because of just having that here. And then what am I working on? Let's see. My team is Chris, who is our graphic designer, senior graphic designer. Larissa is our marketing manager, and Diane is our PR lady. And we're working on all sorts of marketing things. We actually have some items here. What's really cool, and just like I was just saying about collaboration. So we were doing our end of year newsletter, and Diane, we didn't get our gift boxes ready in time. It was just too busy of a year. And Diane took it upon herself to come up with a calendar idea, and she got a bunch of quotes from security experts in our industry and everything. And she presented this, and we're like, wow, that is such a good idea if we do a downloadable option. And then we handed it off to Chris for design, and he ended up developing this incredible calendar that's all the old patents of encryption technology. So these are so old and so cool. This one's a ring over here, and
cool.
Then it just sparked from that. So we ended up with this really cool item that we just send out for free in our orders. So collaboration is really important here.
I'm also hearing a lot around the entrepreneurial mentality that the two of you bring as co-founders. You're looking for that kind of self-starter-ness, that you're people who will look for problems and come with solutions and new ideas on how to solve them. And that's an exciting kind of workplace to be in because you get to really contribute and make an impact in the whole company. So thank you, Chantel, for walking us through that. We've got a question here from Zainan. Thank you, Zainan, for the question. She's asking, do you recommend getting security certification or learning to code? Do you have any advice on that, you guys?
Definitely. So I would say it depends kind of where the direction of your career where you want to go with it. I think everybody should learn to code. It's massively beneficial. Let's say you get a security certification in Cisco or Juniper or something like that. So now, you have your base tool set for work on, say, a networking equipment. But what's really cool is networking equipment can be automated as well. And so we start to think about cloud capabilities. And with a lot of cloud capabilities now, they're somewhat DevOps automated. And so by learning to code, you could also bring kind of value added service to a position where you could go, I can set up automated provisioning of these kind of systems. So it's more which direction you would want to head in. But the biggest thing is, learn to code. It's fun. It's exciting. And especially the biggest thing with learning to code is find something that you really like and build something you want. It could be as like, for me, I make my own e-juice for myself. And so with that, a really cool project is, build an automated calculator that can do volumes to weight ratios and stuff like that. So by building something that you enjoy and you're very passionate about, that'll also help make it a more fun experience as you go through it.
Thank you, Jeff. You kind of mentioned that when you're hiring, you're looking for folks who show that they're interested in learning. It's more about the curiosity and kind of passion for the industry, perhaps. And I'm wondering, like, how else do people demonstrate that? Like, are you looking for, projects on GitHub, or how do you see that being demonstrated in candidates these days?
Totally. Yeah, we were actually talking about this, I think, a couple of days ago. And so a good example, depending if you have worked on projects or not, a lot of the time you do have school projects. So if you've worked on projects in school, get them onto a personal GitHub. But that is something that we look for, right? Like if you have the time to build your own personal website to showcase yourself, your code most likely is going to be minified. So it's not going to be pretty. And so it's really a good idea, if you do have a personal website, to be able to take that code and put that online. Because then, if you're advertising your website as yourself as a resume, then as recruiters or even us, you're going to go on there, you're going to look at it. And then from there, you could go a bit further and you can go to GitHub, and then you could see how this website was built and what skills were applied to it. I would say that is a really big thing that companies look for, is definitely personal projects, which definitely sucks when you're starting out, because most likely you have another job and you only have a narrow set of time. But it's very important if you want to get your foot into the door. The big thing is building a project, a personal project, getting it online, and then also keeping it somewhat up to date. Because if it's been 4 years since university and it hasn't been updated, somebody else that also 4 years since school but have a project they updated a couple months ago, that'll give higher leverage.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeff. I think it can be hard to carve out that space to do those personal projects, but you're right. That is a demonstration of the passion and commitment to kind of your craft. And I think lots of folks are looking for ways to get involved and show and practice their skills. So I think it's an awesome starting point. Chantel, are there any open roles that Myntex is hiring for right now?
Currently not. We're not there yet, but we will be in the coming months.
Okay, that's very exciting. And, you guys talked about it a little bit in terms of like the code project, but if somebody applies for a job at Myntex, what can they expect in that process? What's the interview process like at Myntex?
Super fun.
I mean, it's a little different for my side, the more marketing and sales side versus for Jeff's side. But on my side, it's a lot more of a conversation at the beginning. It's checking personal projects, like we mentioned earlier, their portfolios, especially for a graphic designer, kind of seeing that their style matches our style. The interviewing process is pretty much a conversation, just making sure that we
mesh.
Mesh. We can laugh, we can have fun, we kind of bounce ideas off of each other. And then for Jeff's side, it is the same. He does, on the programmer side, he does have a conversation with them at the beginning, and then it goes into a test. The next stage is a coding test. And then from there, he reviews, and I think you do a third interview sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah. And then we've changed it over the years now to what we're looking for, somebody that when it comes to passionate and understanding and being able to kind of push the boundaries. Our tests have more, we do have a coding test depending, but the big conversation is more, it's not really, do you know this and do you know that? It's kind of more the Silicon Valley style questions where it's like, build me a Shopify, very broad questions like that, or build, you could say a currency exchange service. And by keeping it very broad, you can really sort out where your mind goes or where the candidate mind goes, right? So if they're going to start at the very, very bottom, okay, we're going to need this kind of database, and we're going to need this kind of API, and maybe they're going to go and say we need this and this and this for languages, not everybody does that. It depends how high level or how low level you want to go. And so it's a very good question. And a lot of companies are doing it. We're nice enough to only have to do a couple interviews or one interview, whereas, I mean, some companies are seeing 4, 5, 6, 7, a lot of interviews. But it's a fun I mean, I enjoy the process. I think it's quite exciting to see how people think and what they bring to the table.
Cool. Thank you, Jeff. I think those questions they're interesting, can be overwhelming, but I think the reminder there is that it's not about having a right or a wrong answer. It's really about bringing somebody into your head and showing them your thought process and how you respond to those scenario questions. So thank you. We're getting some comments in the chat here about must love dogs. And I believe you guys have a doggy, is it a doggy bed or something that's built like into your workspace, right?
Yeah, we have bunk beds, and then like 3 human bunk beds and 2 dog bunk beds, and they're all like different firmnesses depending on what you prefer. Yeah, we're a dog-friendly office. Jeff and I have a poodle and a foster poodle, and then there's some doodles upstairs as well. So it's fun. It's nice to come into the office and get greeted by a dog, and it's exciting when they come up to you and just say hi, and you get to give them a little pet and a treat. It brings up the good feels in the office.
Well, it's nice that folks can bring in like that part of their lives into their work. I know for me, like I've got kiddos popping their heads up or climbing all over me during my meetings sometimes. And it's just, like that's a part of my life and who I am. So why wouldn't I get to kind of integrate that with my work a little bit? And I love that you guys do that with dogs as well. Okay, let's see. I think we're wrapping up here on kind of the questions I wanted to cover. I guess I'll leave it with one final question. And folks, if you do have any more, please feel free to put them in the chat and we'll get to them shortly. But my last question really is, if somebody is a new grad or pivoting their career in technology, what advice would you have for them if they're considering a career in security?
What advice would I have for them? I think it would just come back to what we kind of previously discussed. Show a passion, show an interest. The hard thing with the technology industry is it changes rapidly. What was standard practice last year is not standard practice. And of course that is hard coming out of school because you will have another job for sure, but don't lose interest in it, right? If it is passionate, stay within it, continue to build fun projects on the side, and one day it will happen, right? It's just a matter of time for sure. As long as you stick with it, you will get your foot in the door, and that's all you need. You just need that one foot in the door, and then from there, it's easy for sure.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeff. That ability to demonstrate that you can learn quickly and often is what I'm hearing as kind of that key takeaway there. So I love that. Chantel, what about you? Any advice?
I totally agree with Jeff. It's really about the passion and continuously learning. For me, I'm still learning all the time. I'm trying to catch up with these guys and what they're constantly implementing every single day. So when I'm in my calls, I know what I'm talking about. It's incredible what these guys do here. So yeah, continuously learning and passion.
Okay. We have one question from the chat. For someone who's interested in learning how to code but has no background experience, where should they start? Are they best going to like online courses? Should they look at a boot camp? Especially if they're interested in the security space.
So my personal experience, so initially I wasn't a developer. Initially I was more of a system admin, Linux administration, setting up servers, specing out servers, building the data center that you see behind Chantel. And so I was also self-taught. My biggest advantage was the passion, right? I really want to learn to do this. So then research, how do I approach this? The way that I did it is I used Code Gym. Was a really fun, it's free. One of my electrical engineer friends, he wanted to learn to code because he knows how to code in C++, but he wanted to further his horizons a little bit. And so we both signed up for this Code Gym. It's free to start until you get to a certain level. And it's kind of like a game. It's like a comic book game, and you read through it, and then all of a sudden there's these problems you have to solve. And they're all coding examples and exercises, and you just kind of move through, and then you collect what they call dark matter, and you need so much these points to be able to get to the next lesson. And so what was really fun with it is I did it with a friend. So it was like, you know, you're holding each other accountable. Oh, did you get this done? Did you get this done? What level are you? And then that website is really nice because they're always they're trying to get people into the tech industry. And so they'll have really nice blog posts, editorial things that'll come out that basically talk about the industry and getting prepped for interviews. I would definitely say start with online learning. Don't sign up for some super expensive course. Just start with the basics. Boot camps, they're always good as well, depending on what you want to do. But I would definitely say start with online learning. See if you like it. That's the first thing, right? Coding's fun, but it can be a nightmare. Some of the projects we've been working on, we're a handful of companies in the world that are working on them. And so you could be a Google master, but you still can't find the information you need. And sometimes it could just be 5 days of the definition of insanity, changing a line and expecting a different result. And the same thing happens and happens and happens. But it's that moment that, you know, after weeks of work and it works and you're like, wow, it's awesome. And that's what we're going for, right? At the very end, you're like, wow, I did that. And it's a feeling of accomplishment, a massive feeling of accomplishment. So it's definitely not easy. There's going to be some hard times, but I love it.
Someone was awesome enough to post a link to that. So if anyone's interested in checking out Code Gym, there it is. Jeff, that's really cool to hear that you're self-taught and you've been able to build this company. I think it's inspiring for others to know that you don't need to go and have a 4-year degree or pay thousands of dollars for a boot camp, but with the commitment and passion that you can do it and kind of carve out your own path. That's very exciting. So thank you for that insight. Okay, I think that things are quieting down in the chat here. I don't have any further questions. We've covered a lot about, you know, Myntex, the background around security, what careers at Myntex can look like. Oh, just one last story. Chantel, can you tell us a little bit about where Myntex started from your living room and how you've been able to grow to where you are today?
Sure.
Don't forget about the recycling depot.
Yeah, it's actually fun because we were just re-looking at pictures the other day, and it's a fun memory. So basically, Jeff and I were actually in the process. We were already incorporated for a company called Mint eCurrency Exchange, and then we fell upon encryption, and we're like, wow, this could actually be a really great business. How do we do it? So we invested $500 at the Calgary Recycling Depot. We bought 2 Dell servers and a rickety rack, and we set it up in our dining room of our duplex in Canmore, Alberta. And we set it up. We named them Raichu and Pikachu, and they generate a lot of heat. And so we had to go to Canadian Tire and purchase 2 AC units, you know, the ones that like come out the window with the long cord, and place them like right in front. So if you try and sit downstairs to watch TV, that wasn't happening. You couldn't have dinner parties, nothing. It was just like this data center in our living room or dining room. Sorry. I mean, we were there for 6 years. Not a lot of our resellers knew that was our location. We, of course, made it out to be like we were bigger than we were, very similar to Apple. Never admit. And and then eventually we grew. We grew enough that we got to buy this space. We bought the space in 2014. We renovated for 2 years, and then we finally got to move in and expand to an 8 rack data center, which was really exciting. Actually, when we have raised flooring here, so when we were rolling in the racks, they actually were caving the floor down. So we had to figure out a way to get them into here, which is concrete. It was hilarious, actually. So
well, at least you don't need air conditioning units to keep them cool anymore.
Yeah.
Oh no, there's ACs in there now. They're just on the roof.
We're not Canadian Tire.
Yeah, no more Canadian Tire specials for sure.
Yeah.
That is really cool to hear. And I love, you know, that starting story of, you know, setting it up in your dining room. It was $500, and that's where Myntex is coming from. I think those humble beginnings are kind of a testament to the entrepreneurial spirit that we have here. So Jeff and Chantel, thank you so much for your insights today. Folks, if you want to connect with Myntex, we encourage you to visit their LinkedIn page. And if we can get a link to that, I'll just pop it up on the video here. But that's a great way to be following them and see what's coming down the pipe for new job opportunities as well. So thank you, Jeff and Chantel. This has been a fantastic conversation. If you're working in software development and you do want to share your story with other women in tech, I encourage you to check out Geek's Career Pathing. We are looking for more mentors all the time, and that's a great way to give back to this community as well. We will be sending out a post-event survey. If you could take a couple of minutes to fill that out, that would be much appreciated as well. And otherwise, have an amazing Friday. We will give you a few minutes back in your lunch hour, and we'll see you next time. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.